what's happening? It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Back on a Tuesday. Woke up in Philadelphia this morning. Now I'm here. Cool how that works. And then guess what, boys and girls? It is a game week, which is very, very exciting. We are thrilled to have it. We are thrilled for actual real football. We got a taste, of course, of real football over the weekend with the college football slate, some of which we'll talk about. Obviously, the big stories out at Colorado later on in the show. We also, you might notice on the stream, slightly different look as we continue to tinker and get everything maximized for the season. Very excited to continue to upgrade everything that we're doing. We should be streaming on Facebook hopefully by the end of the week as well. They got us some new equipment. So if anything's going wrong in the stream, please let us know very politely, and we will work to fix it as soon as possible. In the meantime, Anthony, it appears that the computer in front of me, of which I am used to using for the rundown, doesn't have the internet anymore. So we're going to have to get that straightened out in the commercial break. I don't know if they anticipated me just not using this computer anymore ever, in which case that would be understandable, and there'd be no internet. But alas, we continue forward. I remember what we were going to talk this segment about anyway. Although I will say, Anthony, just say hi real quick. We got to get you to say hi to the internet because you got a fancy new camera angle. Hey! Look, everybody. It's Anthony. Hey. All right. So Ron Rivera sat down with John Keim at some point this offseason, and we can get a little bit more background on this story coming up at 5 o'clock when Cakes is actually going to join us for a rare appearance live here on this radio show. But he sat down with John, and they talked about what it is going to be like this year for him to guide this team and what it means to be successful or not, and what that means moving forward in terms of the long-term prognostication, and not really prognostication because that's really for us. It's for those of us on the outside. But on the inside, what it means to be successful moving forward for this franchise and what he sees as achieving that. And kind of the money quote in this entire story, the one that's getting a lot of attention, is roughly, if I get fired because we go 8-1 again this year, and they go on and win the division next year with 40 of 53 players that we brought in, and, they go win the division, like, sweet, send me he says the Super Bowl ring, which is funny because he says win the division in the quote. A dichotomy I just realized now as I'm talking about this out loud, but you get the point. Let's say they win the Super Bowl next year. Hey, send me the Super Bowl ring. I just want to give, and this is the quote that I love actually from Ron, is I just want to give this area the team it deserves. And it begs a pretty interesting question, which is going into the season, like what kind of job has Rivera done so far? And if we were to come to an agreement that he's actually built something that's got a little bit of hope, a lot of potential, and as Ron says in that quote, a little segment that I forgot that's rather important, if they win it with this quarterback, a.k.a. Sam Howell, doesn't, who knows what he does this year, but by next year, he's leading them to the playoffs and deep into them. Ron feels like he can look back and say, I was successful. And it's hard to argue with them on some level, but it does kind of beg an interesting question, which is he actually the right guy to get them to the next phase? It's something that I think a lot of people in Carolina would have had a question about sometime after that 2015, 2016 season of like, okay, cool, you built this, but why can't you sustainably win every year? You're good at building. Are you actually good at coaching? And I realize that that's the harshest way I can possibly say that, but that's really, when you boil it down, what we're asking here. Has Ron built something that is good, but that he is not capable of getting the maximum out of? And that ultimately is going to be the question that I think he answers this year. One, well, it's a two-part question. One, is he right on his hypothesis? Is he right that he's built something that he can be proud of? Is he right that this current collection of players and staff, by the way, because the impetus of this piece in many ways is the hiring of Bieniemy and the idea of Rivera after 12 years of being a head coach doing something not for the first time, but for the first time in a while, that's outside of his comfort zone. And hiring Bieniemy and giving him this amount of control and having Eric come in and do all the different things that they've done is that, right? This is different. He didn't go hire Pat Shurmur, who he's worked with before. He went and hired a guy that he's obviously got a lot of faith in, but hadn't called plays before and was going to do things and asked to do things in a way that's very different than the way that Ron has been doing them as of late. But so has he built the infrastructure as well as he thinks he has? And two, when you get in the games and you have to do the challenges and the timeouts and you have to make tough calls on whether to go for it or not, are you actually the guy that's capable of doing that? Are you the guy that's capable of week in and week out motivating the team in the right ways? Or is, I don't want to call it a fever dream, but is the dream of many Commanders fans going to come true, which is ultimately Ron steps aside after the year, and whether that's an agreed-upon step aside or a nice nudge from Josh Harris saying, like, hey, man, you can either take this front office role or not. And Ron's like, well, if that's the case, if the not is I don't have a job, I like the front office role, it probably is going to pay pretty well. And it might behoove Harris to do that because he's going to have to pay Rivera anyway. And if he thinks there's actual value there, then cool. But do you actually do the things as a coach, or is it time for that fresh voice? And could that fresh voice, to finish off the dream, be Bieniemy? Is this just a stepping stone year to Howell ascending, some of the other younger players, the Jahan Dotsons, et cetera, ascending, McLaurin and Allen reaching the best points they will ever have in their careers, and it all coinciding with EB going from assistant head coach to head coach, and whatever changes might come with that? I think that would be an interesting thing for Del Rio. Does he want to stick through that? What other staff changes happen? Is that actually the right move? Because we all know there's been many great assistants in every single sport, maybe many great coordinators in football specifically who don't have it as a head coach. I tend to think a lot of the things that make EB great as a coordinator would be good as a head coach, his organizational skills, his attention to detail, his realness and his motivation. Like, I think a lot of the stuff, I actually am not that concerned about that with Bieniemy from the very little that I've gotten to see him. But I also acknowledge it's the little that I've gotten to see him. And he's obviously been turned down for 15 head coaching jobs. I think a lot of that's a heavily inflated number because a lot of owners were abusing the Rooney Rule. And let's call a spade in that situation. Point is, Rivera, I think, has a point. If he has built this thing where, to use his numbers, 40 of 53 players are the basis of this roster, and Howell is the quarterback, and they are successful after he's gone, even as soon as next year, he does deserve some credit. But I don't know that that's as unique as it's maybe posited. Because if 40 of the 53 are the same, chances are, say, 4 of them would be Allen, Payne, Sweat, and McLaurin, who would probably still be the 4 best players on the team. And all those guys were not Ron Rivera guys that he kept, but they were drafted by the previous regime. And so it's this, I don't even know if there's like a gigantic question here. I'm curious everyone's thoughts on it. 301-230-0980. It just goes to show that an organization and the story it tells over time are complex, and there's a lot of characters. Who gets the credit, who gets the blame, is what it is. If Ron wants to say, I deserve so much credit for that they should mail me a Super Bowl ring, I think that's a step too far. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Let's play the game. Let's evaluate the questions that I asked. One, does Rivera, let's ask it this way. Is Rivera correct in that he's built something that is getting close to a championship contender? And 2, is he the guy to take it there? 301-230-0980. your answers to that question or those questions next here on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I should have said this off the top of the show, Ant. Today is the day for our fantasy football extravaganza. The good news is not teasing in that first 15 minutes. I don't think we're going to be short on calls based off what happened last year. But basically, the gist of this is we're doing a last-minute fantasy league where, just like last year, your boy doesn't have any fantasy football lined up. I would like to. And we need people to be in the league. So I have two celebrities that you might have already seen on Twitter. But we got two celebrities that are in. Anthony is obviously in. Defending champion Anthony, by the way.
Anthony is obviously in. Defending champion Anthony.
And then I'm in, and that means we got 6 spots for a 10-team league. I think we stick with 10 teams.
We got 6 spots for a 10-team league.
Yes, no?
I think we stick with 10 teams this year.
Because that lets us at 4:30, 5:30, and 6:30 take 2 callers in each spot, and you got to tell us why you belong in the league. That's the deal. That's the gig. So coming up at 4:30, you're going to tell us why you belong in the league. Simple as that. That's it. Bada bing, bada bam, bada boom. And that's coming up in 12 minutes. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. It's the same phone number that you were supposed to use to call and talk about our topic of the day. But apparently people are a little bit sleepy. Today's a weird day, Anthony. It's kind of the first day of the end of summer. Because a lot of parents had to take their kids to school. Because a lot of summer work from home policies. People are back in the office. People are. Today's not, and it's 98 bajillion degrees in the district.
And it's 98
bajillion. I don't exactly know how psyched everyone is to be existing in the world today.
I don't exactly know how psyched everyone is to be existing.
I mean, the fact that we have life, I think you should be,
the fact that we have life, I think you should be, Exactly.
So you read this Keim piece with Rivera.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first thing that you thought of?
Mm-hmm.
So just primarily looking at the quote.
It
just gave me Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr vibe.
It just gave me Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr vibe, and I told you this earlier. It's more so Ron is trying to position himself to get some credit for assembling the team that we have. And granted, if he's figured out, the quarterback situation, which we've been longing to, have a franchise QB, if Sam Howell is the guy and the potential's there, and he can, go out there and, win us some games, kudos to Ron. But Ron, you don't get rewarded for, assembling the pieces. You get rewarded for winning. So Ron needs to go out there and actually, hopefully we make the playoffs. Hopefully we get, a playoff win. And I think that's more so what Ron is trying to, get out in front of by saying, hey, if we go out there, are mediocre, 8-1, then, and I get fired and they come back next year better and stronger than whatever.
Well, what does that even
I should get some type of, praise.
I think the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr one is great because Mark Jackson does deserve some level of credit for the Golden State Warriors dynasty.
Did he get any, though?
Yeah, he gets, Steph and Draymond and Clay, certainly.
They're going to acknowledge him, but everybody else...
Steve Kerr does. Steve Kerr says... Steve Kerr will be the first one to tell you, Mark Jackson laid a great foundation.
Yeah, he did.
And he, specifically defensively, he's we kept most of what Mark was doing. It was really smart. We came in, we completely revamped the offense, and we continued to... But even that was, based off of some of the stuff that...
Did he get any, though?
Clay were doing because Steph and Clay had the greenest of green lights. Jackson was the one that did that stuff.
They going to acknowledge him, but everybody else would.
He was exceptional. I think Kerr's a better coach, just to be very, very clear. Yeah. But Kerr was the right guy to build off of what Jackson did. And, I don't know who that is for the Commanders necessarily, but it might be Bieniemy because Ron brought in, it's funny because I can explain a lot of what Ron's done over the years and think it's pretty solid. The execution's been crap.
Yeah.
Right? Even from a skill position standpoint, what have they done? They brought in a bunch of fast dudes. And they ran an offense that didn't take advantage of the fast dudes. And to Ron's credit, part of this offseason, and he talks about this with Bieniemy in the piece, is part of the reason I wanted EB is because the style of offense they run in Kansas City emphasizes getting the ball to playmakers quickly in space, and we stunk at that. So, that's smart. That's good. There's an actual theory of the case here. There's an actual strategy where it's we are trying to get the ball to Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, all of whom run 4.3s, De'Ami Brown, who also runs a 4.3, quickly. Get the ball in their hands and let them do the thing. And by the way, even Carson Wentz, there's a lot of other things that should have been considered, primarily his ability to process information quickly and make good decisions and deliver a football accurately. But, there's a benefit to having a strong arm quarterback when that is theoretically your goal. Hey, how quickly can we get the ball to our playmakers? It helps if our quarterback has a laser rocket arm. And by the way, occasionally we're going to throw some deep shots, and we need that threat to create more space underneath for the quick stuff. Carson Wentz makes a lot of sense on that one piece of information. Again, should have been a lot more considered. Terrible decision. Said so at the time. But, you see some of the stuff there. And so I get the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr thing, and I think it's great. And, who's this franchise's Steve Kerr is TBD. But when you say, like, gets credit, what does that actually mean? Do you want a bonus? If they win a playoff game a year after you're fired, do you want more money? No. That's not how this works. You get a Super Bowl ring if they win it? No, not unless you're upgraded, so to speak, to the front office. But, like, by people like us being like, hey, Rivera put some stuff in place. Sure, he can have that.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's more so like what the piece was getting at. And I don't understand why he, necessarily wants that, validation to an extent. Like, again, you had the same opportunity. Granted, the season is still, remains to be determined, like, how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's more so like what the piece was getting at. And I don't understand why he, necessarily wants that, validation to an extent. Like, again, you had the same opportunity. Granted, the season is still, remains to be determined, like, how it's going to play out. But I'm just saying the timing of the piece is just more so why sort of kind of put this out, unless you're really, wanting to,
years, literally years. This is the most that people are going to be searching for command.
Yeah.
That's that. But, like, I do think it's interesting that Ron is willing to say, on some level, a quiet part out loud. But I like the thing that I'll say this because I feel like this has sounded on some level critical of Ron. Like, I don't disagree with anything that he said. I don't even really have a problem with him saying it. Like, unlike some of the other stuff that he said over the years, where, like, that's actually made your job harder. Like, this is just interesting fodder. And I actually think this is a good reflection of him if he means it honestly, because he's not trying to, like, shortcut things or
I agree too.
Credit. I demand everything now. He's like, I'm trying to do the right thing for this franchise long term. I believe that we can be a great team over the long term because I've been trying to build this in a sustainable way over time. Yeah. My time might ultimately wind up being more limited than I initially planned, but I'm not going to shortcut things now because all of a sudden there's a new owner and yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm not going to try to trick him. I'm not going to try to do anything crazy. I'm not going to be like, we need to trade for insert quarterback here. Like, we're not doing any of that. He didn't do anything crazy around Lamar, anything. He's like, this area deserves a great team. I'm going to do my best to give them that. And if it's ultimately decided that that is not good enough, then I will cheer for them from afar. Like, good. Like, that is actually a positive reflection of Ron Rivera as a human being. I think the trouble for him is that statement might be more true than he wants it to be, in that I don't know after this year whether Harris is going to be like, yeah, you're the guy. He might be like, you're the guy to cheer us on. Thanks for playing. You did some good stuff. Time to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, his passion just for, wanting to win, wanting to, bring, success to the franchise, which we've been lacking for some years, is definitely there. Definitely can't question it. I'm more so just looking at, him on the field. Yeah,
I mean, of course, like, his passion just for, wanting to win, wanting to, bring, success to the franchise, which we've been lacking for some years, is definitely there. Definitely can't question it. I'm more so just looking at, him on the field and what he's doing. And I think that's all I really want out of Ron, to be honest, is to, go out there and actually, win on the field. I think off the field, he's done a fantastic job, and that, can't be taken away from him.
Different than they were 12, 15 years ago. Because he's a man in his 60s that, like, I don't think his daughter has any children, so, like, he's not a grandpa yet, but, like, he very easily could be. Right? Like, the things you care about at that point in your career, like, he's been pro football for 40 years. Yeah. Like, of course he cares about different stuff now. He doesn't care if these players, like, know that he was on the 85 Bears, because they weren't alive by 15 years for the 85 Bears. Yeah. Like, it's just different, man. And so, like, I appreciate the perspective and the humanity of the difference and all of that. And I do think that it's just going to be a matter of, like, do they win or not?
Yeah.
And does he make key decisions that cause them to win or not? And at the end of the year, if he makes a bunch that you're like, yeah, man, this is Rivera at his best, then he'll be the coach moving forward. And if not, then he won't. And the question is going to be what happened around him to that. Do they completely start over, or is there enough there that they put Bieniemy in charge and move forward with that? We'll talk more about it with Keim coming up at 5 because he wrote the piece. So not my beat today. Literally the author of the top story of the day. Join us at 5 o'clock. Right now, though, it is time. We're going to open up the phone lines for the first time. The Hoffman Show Fantasy League, Year 2. Why do you belong in it? 301-230-0980. Your call's next.
I'll throw out the number again.
YouTube too, youtube.com/@the-team980.
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app.
Helping
Streaming
us out
live
on
on
the,
YouTube too, youtube.com
on the YouTube
/@
Let's see if we can figure out
the Team 980.
Oh, that's why. On the two shot, Anthony, we had something that was turned up that shouldn't. So now the audio should be good. Appreciate everyone on the comments of the feed letting us know, because we said we're streaming a slightly different way today, which will be our new home, if you will, and hopefully that should have fixed. And I apologize for for not checking the comments out in the previous segment. So appreciate that. Here's what we got, though, right now. We're going to do this every hour on the half hour. We are going to open up 2 spots at 4:30, 5:30, and 6:30 into the Hoffman Show Fantasy Football League. We did this last year. It was the most calls we've ever gotten on anything in the history of the show, and that record remains. So if you want in our league, call now. Why do you belong in the league? It could be funny. It could be not funny. Try not to be too much of a downer, but hey, if this is what you need to get your life going, then, you know, who are we to say no? I guess it's me. It's really me, Anthony. I'm not even going to put this on you. It's our judgment, but it's really my judgment on this. So if someone calls in and I'm just not feeling it, it's tough luck. But let's go. Ace Law listener line. In a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law, 301-230-0980. Why is it that you belong in the fantasy league? I will say, Anthony, we're surprisingly light on calls considering how this went last year right now. And if I got to, one, we got more spots open later, so we can always open this up again later in the show. 2, we can open this up to tweets and to YouTube comments. So different ways we can do this. Let's see what we got. We got 10 minutes to fill out 2 spots. So let's get going. 301-230-0980. All right, Sean, get us started.
Yeah, this is Sean. I'm a fantasy king. I've been in the fantasy 20 years, and I really want to be in you all's league.
Okay, wanting to is not really... Like, we're going to need a little bit more than that. When you say you're the fantasy king, like, give us a little... 20 years is a long time. A fantasy OG for sure. But, like, how many leagues are you in right now?
I'm in 3 leagues, and I've won championships in all 3 leagues. Multiple.
Anthony, I just said this is all on me, but what do you think?
The experience is definitely there.
It is.
Also, he's controlling 3 teams in 3 different leagues.
Sounds like you, honestly. Just a lot, more
pretty
experienced.
Much. And he's won multiple championships in those leagues.
Yeah. All right, Sean, I'm leaning towards yes, because also I appreciate that you were like go-getter on this. You were the first one in line, and so the enthusiasm, I think Sean's in the league. Sean, welcome to the league. Hey, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you on hold. Do not hang up. You're going to have to give Anthony your email address so that I can actually literally put you in the league. So do not hang up. On hold goes Sean. All right, that was good. That was easy. 20 years of fantasy, enthusiasm for the show, enthusiasm for the league. That's Sean's in the league. All right, let's see what else we got. We got Devon. Devon, why should you be in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League?
What's up, Chris? I should be in the Hall.
Hold on. What did you just say?
Craig. My bad.
You got a big hole to dig out of now, Devon.
Look, what's up, Craig? I should be in there, man, because I was in y'all's last year, man. Y'all stumped me, man. I'm on revenge, man. So I need my gets back, man.
Intriguing, but if we already beat you once, I'm not super inclined to have you back. Like, we got to get some fresh competition. Let me ask you this, Devon. What got you in the league last year? Do you remember?
Because I'm a Hall of Fame caller, man. I've been doing this 980, 1067 thing for about 4 years consistently. Anthony know me, man. I remember when Anthony just started with the B. Mitch and Doc show, man.
Okay. Well, Devon, I'm going to put you on hold for a second. Anthony, take down Devon's info. He's not a no, but he's currently in the queue. He's currently a maybe. We're going to see what else we got. Let's go to Rob in Largo. Rob, why do you belong in the fantasy league?
Because, man, this is the only league that matters. That's why. We want to be in there. We want to show them what we got, man. We got Big Craig in the building. My guy over there, and what's going on, brother? I appreciate y'all, man. Let's get it going, man. I'm fired up.
But it's not about us. Like, we're going to be in the league regardless. It's about you. Why do you belong in the league besides I want to be there? Everyone that calls wants to be in the league. What separates you, Rob? Why do you belong in the league? That's the whole point of this exercise.
Because I'm number one at everything that I do, and I win, and I don't lose.
That's, one, completely improvable. Two, pretty generic and lame, to be honest. Sorry, Rob. Rob's not in the league. I appreciate Rob wanting to be a part of the league. I appreciate Rob's enthusiasm. We gave Rob some chances and didn't exactly go, gung ho there on a good, compelling reason why. We got a lot of listeners. We got a lot of people that have been listening for a long time. We got a lot of people that want to be in the league. The question is, why do you actually belong in the league? 301-230-0980. Let me check Twitter real quick and see if I got any tweets.
Rob's confidence was through the roof.
It was, but we it's not good enough. Confidence only gets you so far. Here's something else. Let's see. We got someone on y'all need me in the league for Ant. I'm the only person who on that new wave with them never lost the league. Again, just because you played a bunch of fantasy football or you haven't played a lot of fantasy football and you haven't lost accordingly doesn't mean you belong in the league. Like, I want to know what's happening. Like, Anthony, the Hall of Famer on this is the dude last year whose wife, Drake, was in her DMs and like it blew up and he's like, yo, that's me. I listened to the show. You got to put me in. That was a pretty spectacular. I was like, you know what? You belong in. I should also say that we got two celebrities that are in the league. And those celebrities are our boy Wes Hall and Michael Phillips. So Phillips, Wes, me, Ant. Who else do we have already in the league? We had our first guy, Rob, who was in the league. Now we got the calls going.
We got Sean that's in the league.
Sean's in the league. Rob, no, that's right. Rob bombed his opportunity to be in the league. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's go to Rashad. Rashad, why do you belong in the league?
I feel like I belong in the league because just my personality, and I feel like my competitiveness. I'll be like the league villain. You know, you guys need a league villain. You know what I mean? I'm consistently in the chat talking trash. You know what I mean? Getting things fired up. You know, I just feel like I'll bring that competitiveness out of everybody.
I think
guys. I don't know how competitive.
Yeah, we're pretty competitive. We don't need someone else to bring the competitiveness. Like, we're pretty competitive dudes. And, you know, obviously if someone wants to be in the league, ladies, welcome in the league as well. Anyone who wants to come in, but you got to have more than competitiveness. I need something compelling here, people. Let's go to, tell you what, let's do this. Let's go to a commercial break. We're going to come back. Now we got pretty full phone lines. And we're gonna pick our last spot for the league, and then Keim's going to join us coming up at 5 o'clock. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. 980. We are always live on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube and Twitter at the Team 980. For the streaming folks, I appreciate your help this hour as we get all our new settings tweaked. I know the delay was crazy, and especially in that last segment. I need y'all to keep letting me know in the comments. I know this is not the ideal way to do this, but I can't watch the stream and host the show at the same time. And neither can Anthony produce the show and watch it at the same time. Let me know if the delay is better in the YouTube comments. We appreciate y'all sticking with us. Obviously, it sounds a lot better now. Look at us. We look fantastic. Hopefully, the sound and the video are actually going together as we continue to tweak and appreciate all the hard work that all our folks here behind the scenes did to get us some upgraded stuff as we continue to grow here on the digital side. As for the task at hand, Anthony, real quick before we get back to the phones, we do have an interesting submission from Mike Steffen on the YouTube chat. It says, I need to be in that league. I'm not a part of one. It will be my main focus, and I'll treat you guys with more respect than what Dan Snyder showed in 20-plus years of ownership. Now, that is not a very high bar, but it made me laugh, and it's his only league. So I'm going to say, Mike, if no one else on the phones beats that pitch, Mike's in the league. So we now have a bar set. I apologize to Devon, but Devon, that knocks you out of the man in waiting section. Thanks for playing last year. Keep listening to the show. Try again next year. Lord willing, we have a show still next year. Let's get back to the phones. Let's see what we got. Let's go to the other bad part about the stream, Anthony, the new stuff. I now have three keyboards and 3 mouses in front of me. God bless. Good luck to me. Let's go to Saeed. Saeed, why do you belong in the league?
All right. Well, I guess I was watching your show online on YouTube with Logan, and I was sitting in a room with a bunch of my friends, and we were watching it. And I'm just going to tell you this full transparency. My friends were listening to your take, and they were like, man, that guy's kind of a jerk. And I said, no, he's not really a jerk. And they're like, yeah, he's kind of like Saeed. Like, he just knows all this stuff, and he's going to make you, so they're like, he's going to rub your face in it. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then they start going, I don't know, I think Saeed knows a little bit more. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I was defending you, mind you, the whole time.
At your own
expense. You lost 8-3. Yeah, at my own expense. You lost 8-3, and I was like, guys, I think it'll be closer than that. And so here I am listening on this radio, and I'm like, not that you would care what my friends think, but I was like, this could be an ultimate opportunity for us to actually settle this score that you didn't even know existed between me and you and probably everybody else. And I'm a long-time, Skins fan that may or may not have interned for them, and I may or may not own a piece of the football that Sean Taylor ran back against Dallas to get that last-second field goal. So my fandom is in check, and I think it's time. I think it'll be good to settle the score. And I defended you when I could have been like, yeah, this guy is a jerk, but I didn't. I think I deserve something.
Saeed, that is the kind of thing that we are looking for. Man, that is going to be really hard to beat. I feel like, one, because there's 5 minutes left in the segment, and they don't just let me go to commercial because we found someone, and two, because all these other people called, and I feel like I need to hear them out. But I'm going to say you are safely, very safely on deck for this other spot. That's all I can promise at the moment. But do you mind either giving Anthony your number to call you back, or just waiting on hold for 5 minutes and listening to the rest of the calls?
I can wait a few more minutes.
All right, I'm going to put you back on hold. Saeed with a banger. Anthony, that's going to be hard to beat.
That was really good. That was really good, Saeed. I must say.
That's excellent. All right, let's see what else we got. We got Eldridge. Eldridge, can you beat Saeed? Why do you belong in the league?
Well, it's quite easily. Evidently, you can't beat Anthony, so you're going to let me in the league to take the crown from him.
Nope. Saying I can't win in my league. Come on. Saeed's sitting there on hold being like, maybe he is a little bit of a jerk. No, I could. Look, fantasy football is part skill, part luck. And anybody that's played it well enough knows that. Because, Anthony, I don't know if I remember exactly, but I had one of those years in our league last year where I wound up finishing middle of the pack, but I think I was second or third in the entire league in points scored.
Yep.
So don't come for me on my fantasy football skills. That's a bad way to try to get in the league. All right, let's go to Jim. Jim, why do you belong in the league?
Because I am the true OG of fantasy football. I've been doing this for 37 years. Back when it first started, it was just a rotisserie league, pretty much like baseball was.
Right.
I'm currently in 3 leagues. I'm the reigning champion in 2 of them.
Okay.
And as if the suffering aspect is that I'm a diehard Skins Commanders fan, and I've been a season ticket holder for 20 years. Although now we finally have something to look forward to, I hope. But that's my thing.
All right. By the way, Anthony, great news. Guess what's back?
Your board.
The board is back. That is correct. Jim, the good news is you do definitely have something to look forward to with your football team. The bad news is, despite your wealth of experience, that's not good enough to get in the league. Just bragging about fantasy is not going to get you into the league. Did you guys not listen to Saeed's call? Let's go to Junior. Junior, why do you belong in the league? Oh, there goes Junior's chance. Greg, why do you belong in the league? Greg.
You got to put me in. Craig.
I don't have to put you in. You have to tell me why you belong in. That's the whole point of the exercise.
All right, I'm going to break it down. 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, our names are similar, all right? Our parents would think along the same line. Number two, I'm an avid listener, always listening to you guys. Obviously, I watch Take Command with you and Logan, but listening to the radio every morning on my way to work. Third, and this is the most important, I'm a teacher. Lord, the school just started. This is my only league. I need this. I need to compete with you and the celebrities so I can feel a connection with you guys when I'm listening in the morning and hopefully get a couple wins in the fantasy realm. The other callers were great, but I'm telling you, you got to add me to your league, bro.
Greg, we're going to have to figure out the math, but I can't say no to that. So I'm going to put you on hold. Saeed is also going to be in the league. And that's where we're at for right now. I don't care if we have to expand to a 12-team league. I'll figure out the math later. We can add celebrities. We can add other callers. We'll figure it out. If you just called in and you're on hold, good news, more spots up for auction at 5:30. Here's the thing, though. At 5:30, we're not doing this twice. We're not doing 2 segments worth. Call in at 5:30, and if you don't get it at 5:30, same thing at 6. That's it. That's how we're doing it. 5:30, 6:30, because we got to give people who listen later on in the show a chance. But Greg, Saeed, congratulations. You are in the league. The draft hopefully will be tomorrow live. I actually need to talk to my boss to see if we're allowed to live stream that and where that will be. I'll just live, like Anthony and I, and hopefully Phillips, maybe Wes will all hop in like a Zoom and we'll live stream that. And then obviously we'll put the actual draft up on the screen. But Greg, Saeed, y'all are in the league. Appreciate the enthusiasm. If you didn't get in that time, try again at 5:30. In the meantime, though, John Keim is next here on The Hoffman Show. Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. 5 o'clock, we tackle the top story of the day. We always do it with an expert. Today, special bonus treat because we get to talk to the man who actually literally wrote the story. It's time for Not My Beat. Today, that man is John Keim, ESPN.com. Of course, longtime Commanders beat reporter. Cakes, how are you, sir?
Okay, but I've only covered the Commanders for a year and a half.
I'm trying to think of how I could make that math work as a joke, and even with my terrible math skills, Cake, I don't think that adds up. What is this? Year what do we decide? Year 26, 27?
Well, but yeah, covering the Commanders, it's a year and a half. Covering
there
Washington
you go.
franchise,
Okay.
It's a little bit longer, yes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay, covering Washington for slightly longer, Commanders for a year and a half. And what I think is so interesting about the story that you wrote today on ESPN.com, which kind of examined the ties that bind Howell, Rivera, Bieniemy, and the fact that they are intrinsically in many ways tied together is this is the most obvious story of the season. So how did you decide to attack, like the why you wanted to write it, duh. How did you decide to attack it to make it a little bit different, more interesting, and what are some of the questions that maybe weren't as surface level that you wanted to answer?
Just to kind of see if they all realized that they were tied. I mean, we all kind of know, but like how they thought about the perception of that. And, you know, and then especially like for Rivera, what I was really interested in with him was you're going into a very pivotal year. You've coached in this league a long time and you've made some big changes and you're rolling with a young quarterback. Why? Why do you feel comfortable doing that? And, you know, what does it say about you that you're doing that? And how do you perceive it? So that's what I was always, because we all can say that, but I'm curious to do they how much do they even think about it, which is not very much, because even, you know, I can't remember which one of them said it, but like quarterback is tied to everybody. Like if Sam Howell has success, they all have success. But the ones who can really benefit would be, you know, obviously Rivera, because then if you're the new owner, then you be more apt to keep him around. And if Bieniemy, if it goes really well, then Bieniemy could maybe get that head coaching job at some point. Now, I don't know if you'd get it after 1 year. I think you'd have to have a really, really, really good offense, but you're putting yourself in position to be that guy and show what you can do away from the Chiefs, that shadow of Andy Reid. So that's how I was interested in how they perceived it and if they realized, if they felt like that. And then for Rivera, why did you want to go this route at this time?
So for Rivera specifically, he's got this quote that kind of, you know, I think is the splashiest quote, if you will, the most interesting, the most thought-provoking, which is, you know, if I get fired after this year, we go 8-1 next year with 40 of 53 players and this quarterback, they go on and do bigger and better things, send me the Super Bowl ring. It's like, okay, that's not really how that works, but I get your point. But it almost reads as someone who is on some level resigned to that fact that, like, I feel like, you know, that he's thought about it enough that possibility is in his head, and he's almost preemptively wanting to make sure that he's not forgotten in the narrative of how they get to the ultimate point that he sees them going. But that's reading it. When you're having the conversation, the tone can always be very different than a quote presents on paper. How do you think Rivera thinks about his future to the extent that he thinks about it, and how long that future is as specifically the head coach in Washington?
Well, I can't answer how long that future is because we don't know. I mean, there are so many scenarios that would have to play out to determine what happens next with him. And, you know, there's a number of scenarios where we just don't know. He's been through this before. I mean, he went through this in Carolina, so he knows what the score is. And I've talked to him about this often during the off season. And I wrote a story back in March after the owners' meetings addressing some of this as well, right? Not the exact same thing, but more like, you know, the position you're in and the pressure. Do you feel pressure? And so this was kind of a continuation of that. So I think a lot of what it says to me is he feels really good about where they have the franchise finally. And, everybody, we can all say, oh, it's 4 years, blah, blah. But the other thing I put in there was the records of coaches after 3 years under Dan Snyder. And his record is very similar to Joe Gibbs, to Mike Shanahan, to Jay Gruden's. This has been a tough place to win with this owner for a lot of reasons. And so I think, for him, he feels like they finally have it at the spot they want it. So that was, to me, more when he was, that quote that you read is more reflective of their belief and where they're headed. And yeah, you can say like, don't forget about me, but I think it's as much like, just remember where this started. So, because if Howell hits, then like they're in good shape.
Right. Which is, the greatest what if you never get quarterback right. It's so hard. He did it once with Cam Newton, and they went to a Super Bowl. You do it somewhere else, and you can also be good. But I think the other part of this, John, is obviously the ownership side of it, and it's the part that's not in the story. So I realize I'm asking you a tough question here. John Keim, ESPN.com, is our guest today for Not My Beat. But I get asked this all the time. I'm sure you do too. And to me, the answer is always like, I don't know how much they've thought about it, but you've had a chance to, talk to ownership at times throughout the process and ask them questions in the press conferences and stuff. And you talk to people around because you're a reporter and you're good at it and that's what you do. But when people say like, oh, is there a chance that Rivera could move to the front office and Bieniemy becomes the head coach? Or what does he have to do this year to be retained? Do you think ownership actually even knows those answers at this point in the game?
No. And so when people start speculating on them, like, you don't have any clue what they're going to do. You're guessing. And I don't like to guess on that stuff, right? And so, no, they don't have a clue. This is the thing that people have to realize with Josh Harris, he's a very patient owner, all right? And so when he's making decisions, he's not he doesn't make them in a rash fashion. So there's no chance. Now you can enter into it and you can start formulating thoughts and ideas, but they're going to let it play out. And they've said that consistently because that's his style. When he's working with other GMs that are under him, whether it's in New Jersey for the Devils, 76ers, other people who have dealt with him all say the same thing. He's like, just basically ask a lot of questions, see what you have here, and then make up your mind. They're not here to win right now. They're here to build something good. You don't make rash decisions. So they'll let it play out, and the one thing that he's been known for is just his leadership style is to hire good people and let them do their jobs. It's quite a concept that was foreign here for about 24 years.
Right. By
coincidence. So, there were good people hired here, but they weren't always allowed to do their jobs. But there are always others that will offset those good people to prevent all that from happening. So this guy's MO, though, is like his reputation is hire that and let them do their jobs and assess what you have. But if you're going to put trust in somebody, you've really got to assess where are they as a leader? Is it the style that you want, et cetera? So that's what this whole year will be about. We'll be assessing Ron Rivera, the front office, Jason Wright, everybody out there that's connected to that organization is now under the microscope. So no, there's no chance at all. And I can tell you, there'd be certainly no chance that they'd say, oh yeah, Bieniemy's our guy. No way. There's no way they'd say that at this point. That's just not how he operates.
Right.
So, how it plays out, I don't know. But there's no chance that he knows at this point like that. So like, oh yeah, we'll bump Rivera up and we'll do this. No. So, I think you start with how can we, if you're Josh Harris, like, how can I help this team win? What can I do? And what do I need to do? And then you're assessing along the way, because again, the goal is to build something long-term, not just to win this year, but it's to win over the long run.
No, I'm totally with you in looking at the way Harris thinks about things. Like, I don't think that Rivera, has to make the playoffs or anything like that, because it's just not how Harris thinks about the world. Right.
We don't know. It's going to be a lot about, like, again, leadership style. Is this someone like, is he giving me the answers to the questions? Is he giving me the answers I need to the questions I'm asking? How is he at putting together a staff? How is he at dealing with this? Are you good here, but maybe you need to bolster over here? And if you do that, like, what if he wants to change the front office, but Rivera's got the power? How does that play out? I don't know. So there's so many questions. Like, people are going to have to let the season play out because nobody knows at this point. And we can all say, people can guess all they want, but nobody knows.
Right. John Keim, ESPN.com, is with us here on the Team 980. So that kind of circles back to Rivera and what he has been and what he could be, and folds into the last question as well, which is, like, when you look at where Rivera has come up short, to the extent that they haven't won a playoff game yet, and if we call that coming up short, like, how much of that can you attribute back to not getting, whether it's the support, the tools, the whatever from ownership, that Rivera can be a better version of himself under Josh Harris and ultimately get this team where they want to go?
Really, it's about building. So I'm not going to sit here and blame, like, every loss on Dan Snyder, right? You can't do that. That's because, like, there are games where a guy drops a pass or throws an interception. Well, that's not Dan Snyder doing it. However, when you're building an organization, let's take the play off the field, that's where the owner plays a factor. And it's just, his style was, sure, you can go back to, like, during Jay Gruden's era and some guys that they would sign and then re-sign, guys like, the coaches and others did not want. They would sign them, maybe they played linebacker, and then they'd re-sign them despite what the coaches say they needed or wanted. And, like, so you're doing that, and you're putting people in a position where you're not helping them out. You're doing you're doing it based on what, right? Who are you listening to when you do that? You listen to Bruce Allen? Like, come on, you know what I mean? Like, so there's, you know what I mean? Like, so it's who are you listening to help build this? And are you putting something where people are actually working together? So that's in a general sense, right? And, so I think for Rivera's sake, like, this off season is still all on them because he just started working for Josh Harris a month ago, so it's hard to say the impact of that. I think the biggest impact for him is that we're not sitting there talking about, and the players aren't being asked about, like, oh boy, your owner did this, or this thing is happening. What do you think? Or you're not feeling the toxicity from the fan base, right? Understandably upset over what's happened here. That's the stuff that we're like, how much does that matter? But as far as building a roster, building an organization, I just don't know that you could say that any coach here has really had what you needed to in order to do that at the right level. And it's reflective in the record. It is, like, you're trading for quarterbacks that guys tell you they don't want, and then you're doing it anyway, or you're signing, you know what I mean? It's just foolishness. And so, like, you're not going to have that. So for whoever is here, and I know this isn't necessarily what you asked, but for whoever's here going forward, that's where they can benefit. Now, they better make the right moves because, he's giving you the resources. So if you don't, then you can't blame the owner, right? Because if he's not meddling, he's giving you resources. So, but as far as, like, this year, it is like you can't absolve this staff of any blame for what's happening. You just can't. They've been wrong on some things, the line. They need to, the line has to be better this year, a lot better. Have they built it well enough? We'll see. So that's on them. But, trading a couple threes for Carson Wentz, that was a panic move. There's one guy in that organization who used to like to push things like that and cause, like, bad trades, and that was the guy who's no longer here. So you think, it's like, what could you do with those So I just think it's use of resources. But again, they have to show that they're going in the right direction for it to work, and we'll find out. And again, they like what they have. It's got to show it on the field.
Right.
And I don't know that I answered the question directly, but
no, I think you did, maybe not directly, but, like, in there's, I think, the pieces of it. I think one of the biggest things for Harris versus Snyder in terms of what they'll bring is Josh will ask smart questions. Dan gave dumb answers. And like, when you talk about the personnel decisions, it's like Harris, I think a good owner, a good person at the top of an organization, a good leader will say like, hey, why are you doing this? What is this? And if they're smart and some level informed and listening to the right people, they'll be able to poke holes in your logic if they're there and make you really think about it and arrive at the best possible solution. Dan would show up and be like, hey, we traded for this guy. Have fun.
Well, Dan, his MO too was more frenetic. And it was like, do you want to trade with this guy? Okay, go do it. Just go do it. Which, okay, that's on you. Other times it'd be like, no, this is what I want. And it's just like it was a little bit more frenetic. And it's not like with Harris, it is more patient. It is more, probing. And which when you do that, you ask questions that might pertain to the move, and you realize, like, have you thought through everything?
Right.
And so it forces you, like, you're presenting to Harris what you want to do and why. With Dan, it would be like, we want to do this. Okay, go do it. Just go do it. You want Amari Cooper, go sign him. And so like it's not
far more prudent.
This way. Well, it wasn't a good leadership style. They didn't win, and he was not a good leader, and so the organization is what it was, and so I think whoever's here going forward has a better chance of success. And whether it's Rivera or someone else, because like, here's the other thing. If Rivera is gone, it probably means the offense didn't do well. So can you really elevate Eric Bieniemy in that case? So, and if the offense does really well, who's the guy that hired him? And you have the quarterback, and you know what I mean? It's just, there's so many things with that, but that's why it goes back to that story, which is how they're all tied together.
Right. Yeah, it's the sticky. You might wind up in the sticky wicket again that they wound up in 2016 when Sean left, where it's like, yeah, we know that guy's awesome, and the guy we got might not be that, but like he hired him and the whole thing with McVay and Gruden back in the day. You could wind up there again. We'll see. That's a question for far down the road. Questions for right now for John Keim, ESPN.com, with us here on the Hoffman Show. They finally announced today things we knew were coming up. I don't want to call it upgrades. Titles being made official, upgrades to all those men's salaries for sure. On the coaching staff, those were all expected. The other thing we've been waiting for is if there's going to be any movement player-wise. Do you think that could be in the cards, or have we now gotten to the point where we're in season and the Montez Sweats and the Cam Curls, who we're hoping to potentially get new deals, are just going to have to wait till after the season?
I can't say I think there's several months in between, so I don't know. I have not been told that, like, oh, no, they're not going to do anything. It's just more there's so many things they have to do right away that while for fans might say this is a priority, these guys just got here. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're sinking $40 million into FedEx. That's a big priority for them too, because they need to upgrade their house, right? So while in the football side, there's a lot like, oh, this is the big thing. There's, for a group that just got here, there's so much that they have to sift through and get through. So that I know there isn't much movement there at all. They're well aware of the staff's desire to do things. So that's why I say, like, it could be something that I don't like. Craig, I haven't been told that they're going to do it during the season or that they're not. I haven't been told anything other than, what Ron Rivera said today. And what I know is that they've certainly had conversations with ownership about the desire to do this. I think there's still, I would say
it's on the to-do list is
it's on the to-do list, but for the players and the agents right now, I think patience is in order.
Got it. Obviously everyone's being patient or trying to be, probably being pretty bad at it when it comes to Chase Young and what's going on with his stinger and whether or not he's going to play this weekend. I know Rivera spoke today and gave the line of, hey, we don't have to give an official injury report until tomorrow. But where are we at with him? Both kind of small picture of what you know or can tell us about his status for Sunday, and also kind of the general frustration, if there is any, around the organization that it's yet another week going into Sunday where you don't know if Chase Young's going to play, which there were a lot of those last year.
Yeah, it's a far different situation, though. So so I understand how people think, but this is a different injury. So it's not like if he was still about his knee, then like, okay, sure, this is different. Like the doctor has to clear him. Now, if the doctor clears him and he says, I'm not ready, well, then that's like last year. That, to my knowledge, is not what's happened at this point. So still has to get cleared by a doctor. We'll find out more tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day they can put out the injury report. So we'll find out. I've been told a couple things like it's not as bad as what people think, but I don't know what that means because how bad do people think it is? You know what I mean? And so, so in other words, like if it's, I don't think it's anything else beyond what it was. And the other thing someone else pointed out to me last week is like, listen, the doctor, there was no rush to get him cleared before now because he didn't, like, if you cleared him, let's say 2 weeks ago, and I'm not even sure that he could have been. So, so this might be a little bit irrelevant, but like, or if they cleared him last week, well, there's no game. They don't really want him on the field taking any contact. So why not just let it rest as long as possible and then see where it's at this week? So, but I would just say his status is uncertain. You can't say anything other than that. There may be, I don't even know what level of optimism I'd attach to him playing Sunday. I would just say it's uncertain, but but I don't, it's a different injury than last year.
Right.
So, and the doctor has to clear him. Last year he was cleared. He had to mentally get over that hurdle. That was a different situation. Like they had to convince him and he had to convince himself that like, yes, now is the time and you need to see something now because you're running out of time. You need to get through this before the start of the season. This was, a little bit different. So when the doctor clears, then we'll know, but we'll find out more tomorrow. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Let's wrap up with this kind of bigger thought on the injuries rather than trying to speculate on where Terry is and where John is, where Chase is. But it's very easy for fans and even those of us in the media on the outside to be like, this Arizona team stinks. They don't need any of these guys. They can win without him. Give them an extra week. Have you ever encountered a coaching staff, nevertheless, one that thinks that way? Even with any, like, let's say it's even something with Terry where it's like, he might be okay, but we could give him an extra week. Like, that would really make us feel better. Like, is there any consideration of the opponent in week one when it comes to these guys coming back?
So let me just say this. The last time they had a winning season here was 2016. The last time they won a playoff game was 2005. You have a coaching staff in their fourth year that knows they need a good year. You don't discount any opponent because if you do, like, they're not good enough to do that. Now, can you sit there and say like, okay, you know what? It's kind of iffy with Terry. I don't know. Like, it's not so much about like, well, we're playing the Cardinals. It's more like you got 16 more games after this. You need them for the next 16, and you don't want to take the risk of having him play and then then he hurts it again and now he's out for 5 or 6 more weeks. That would be the consideration for those guys. But if even privately you could sit there and think like, yeah, you should beat them without him, but you can't play that way. They haven't been good enough to do that. They fell a game short of the playoffs last year. What if they had taken that approach in one of those games where I don't even know which game you would say it because there was not a game. Well, Houston, let's say, what if they had lost to Houston and they'd taken that approach? You know what I mean? Like, you can't. Right. I don't believe in that at all because they don't have the foundation for success that they need to fall back on that. And they need to get off to a strong start. They need to have a good showing to build a level of confidence that they're going to need to get through these first 6 games where they have to get off to a good start. So, no, Craig, I think it would be more like, again, if you're uncertain about someone and you say, like, this is an injury that could linger if you let it, then make sure it's 100% versus, well, it's the Cardinals, let's just sit him out. Even if the doctor says he's okay, we'll just sit him out because it's the Cardinals. Like, that's going to get them fired.
Right. No, 100%. There is a consideration of, like, long-term versus short-term, but the opponent doesn't factor.
No, it should not. Now, if you're 15-1, all right, right. Yeah, but like you're not
week again.
You haven't done anything here to warrant that level of thinking. You can't go in like you're the Patriots. Like, all right, we got Brady. We're in the height of the Super Bowl thing, But even Belichick wouldn't have done that. But like you can say, I could understand that. It's not here. No, they've got to win.
To bring things full circle, John, they're not the Patriots.
No.
That's right. That is right. All right, John Keim, the story is so good, ESPN.com, about Howell, Bieniemy, and Rivera, how their fates are all tied together. Cakes, thanks for coming on the show. We'll do it again down the line somewhere later in the season. And in the meantime, we'll read your work at ESPN.com and be listening to the John Keim Report.
Thank you, Craig. Always enjoy it.
Thanks, buddy. That is John Keim, everybody, with us here on The Hoffman Show. When we get back, 2 more spots are up for grabs. We've already had some good tweets to contend with as well. Why do you, not why is our league great, not any of that. Why do you, watching or listening, belong in the Hoffman Show Fantasy Football League? Give us a call, 301-230-0980, and we'll see who can get the next 2 spots up for grabs next. Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. So, I can't believe we're going to do this again an hour later, Anthony. We're going to have people scrambling to call in at the last second because no one wants to call at the beginning of the segment. Then people are going to be desperate at the end for spots in our fantasy football league. Here's the deal. We are auctioning off. By auctioning, we're doing it not with money, non-monetary auction. Who's got the best reason? Why should you be in the league? At 301-230-0980 to our fantasy football league. It is me. It is Anthony. Did I point the right way? I did. Sweet. The cameras, they're new, and we got things in new places. I had to see because we've ruined this in the fourth wall before, but in real life, Anthony's over there. In computer life, Anthony's right there. Just the way it is. Anyway, the point is, it's me, it's Anthony, it's Wes Hall, it is Michael Phillips, and then it is, so far we've got 3 in. And the rate we're going this segment, Anthony, we're only going to put up 1 spot because we don't got anyone on the phones for it. We got people fighting each other, calling each other names at 4:30, and now they're scared again. What happened? Why are we doing it this way?
I wish I knew what happened. I definitely did tell the couple of guys that called in last second to, call back at 5:30, after we finished talking with Keim. And maybe they just lost track of time. They might still be listening, and they'll be calling in momentarily. Yeah,
it's the Ace Law listener line. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law. Oh, there we go. Now we got people calling in. Also, they hear, hey, there's no one on the phones, and people think they can get in cheaply. That's not the case. You better have a good reason. But at 301-230-0980, why is it that you belong in the league? We also are taking some tweets. We got a couple good ones. And let's just say the tweets, like someone was super bummed out because they were like, unfortunately, all the slots have been filled by the time you saw my tweet last year. Oh, that was from last year. But this person also said they've been following me since I was on the beat, and they used to listen to Hoffman and Hawksworth when Aaron was back in town back in the day. That was the weekend and evening must listen. So you've been riding and dying for a while here. Hopefully more riding, less dying. For a while here on the radio. I'm just saying that's compelling. Our guy Saeed got in because he defended me to his friends. This is an ego play for me. Let's call it what it is. You can say nice things about Anthony. That's a way to get in. 301-230-0980. All right, here they come. We've absconded the people enough. Now I just have to figure out which one of these 3 mouses is the one to control the phones. There we go. All right. Tim, why do you belong in the league?
I am an avid fan of fantasy football. I have been listening to Sports Talk 980 since it came on the air back in the late 80s.
Okay.
And I live in the Baltimore area now, and I just can't stand the thought of being in fantasy leagues with Raven fans.
Tim, it's not like that. Unfortunately, Tim, that's not a huge separator here. We got a lot of people that have been listening for a long time and a lot of people that have been playing fantasy for a long time. Why do you belong in this league? You got it's 2023, man. You got cell phones and group chats. Like, just because you don't live next to your friends in Baltimore doesn't mean you can't be in fantasy leagues with them. Come on, there's got to be something better than that.
No, I understand. That's true. That's fair. I will bring a certain je ne sais quoi that other members will not. How about that?
Despite my ongoing French lessons, Tim, I think that's going to wind up falling a little bit short. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. Appreciate you being a long-time listener. Thanks for calling in. All right, let's see what Josh has got. Josh, why do you belong in the league?
Hey, Craig. Well, I have this magical thing about me when I play fantasy football that anybody I pick ends up on the IR pretty quickly. And so I would vow to choose as many players as I could from the Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys, thus giving our home team a better chance to win for the season.
Anthony, I'm not going to lie. That's pretty compelling. 1, he's going to stink, which means it's an easy win for us. 2, he's going to harm the opponents in actual football with whatever voodoo magic he has in fantasy. Anthony, what do we say to Josh?
It's true.
And by the way, it made me laugh, which is another essential part of getting into the league. Anthony, what do we say about Josh?
But who's to say he gets those players from the NFC East?
I mean, everyone else in the draft would have to kind of cooperate there. I don't know if people are going to want to give you Saquon Barkley, Josh.
I mean, I'd be making a good faith effort. I understand if you guys want to jump in on Jalen Hurts and watch the Eagles, run away with it all. But I would do my best to get those guys, and you would have my word to not take any Commanders players.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
Josh, here's what we're going to do. I can't guarantee a spot yet, but you are in the clubhouse as the leader. You've crossed the line if we're going to use F1, your provisional poll. So, Josh, I put you on hold already. Hopefully you're still hearing me while you're on hold. Hang tight. If we don't got anybody else that's better in the next 2.5 minutes, Josh is in. And now, Anthony, I should say, one, we've got some compelling tweeters. And two, we did go one over in the last segment.
Yep.
So the competition's pretty stiff here, but the phones are letting us down on this year.
Sadly.
Sadly.
Well, the first segment was really crazy.
It just took a long time.
Yeah.
We had Marty. I appreciate your enthusiasm here, but you can't make fun of my colleagues and expect to get in the league. That was a tweet that I'm not going to read on the air. Let's see. I think that's all the tweets we got. Right now, I would say Josh and Cobra Commander are in big time good positions for these slots. Let's see what our guy Lap has to say, though. Lap, we all know you're a long-time listener. We all know you're a caller with frequency to all the shows. But why do you belong in the league?
I'm going to tell you why I belong in the league, Craig. For one, I'm the voice of the people, man. So what I want to do is I want to take all the best callers from the Fan and ESPN 980 to help me pick my lineups so we all win together. And that's what I want to do. Because since everybody can't participate and we got a lot of Hall of Fame callers, we got a lot of people that listen on a regular, put your boy Lap in there. I'm the voice of the people. So
Lap,
that's my pitch for it.
Lap, this is a great pitch. However, I'm not going to Dan Snyder you here and be like, go do it. Spend whatever you need to. I'm going to Josh Harris you, and I need to know more details. How are you going to accomplish this? It sounds great in theory, but how are you actually going to accomplish this feat? How are you going to get everybody involved?
Well, I'm going to have to give them my information so they can send me.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous. That sounds dangerous. That's too many cooks in the kitchen situation here.
Hey, man, I'm the voice of the people. I can't be scared of the people. So, and you should take a vote for the last few people that's trying to get on. Take a vote.
Lap.
It's a lot of people that are vouch for Lap to get on there on that fantasy, man. Come on now. I'm a diehard sports fan.
That is,
come on now, Craig.
A vote for the last spot. I wish we had thought of that. That's pretty good. I'm just telling you, Lap.
Yeah.
You should be more scared of the people. Have you paid attention to the news lately? You should be way more scared of the people.
Nah, man. I ain't scared. But thanks, though. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate getting my opportunity, man. I hope y'all pick a guy that's worthy. But
yeah, I appreciate it. It's a compelling case that's a little short on details. So tell you what, let's do this with the spot for right now. Josh, congratulations. Josh, who has promised to ether the rest of the NFC East with his bad luck and provided a hearty chuckle for me and Anthony. He is going to get the 5:30 spot. So Anthony is already talking to him on hold right now, and he is going to get the spot for 5:30, which puts us back on par for 6:30, where we will have 2 more spots up for grabs in our fantasy league. But we already have another provisional poll, if you will, with Cobra Commander in the clubhouse on Twitter with a pretty compelling case, some specifics on how long he's been listening, and the fact that he had a good one last year and got kicked out of the league. So you're going to have to crush this at 6:30, but we'll give you the chance then at 301-230-0980. Up next, though, our weekend in review. What else happened this weekend here on The Hoffman Show? It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And it's time to take a look at what else happened this weekend before we hit Take Command at the top of the hour. And Anthony, I will say this. Logan and I don't get into it, argue, disagree very much. Little bit of sniping, little bit of argumentativeness on the old podcast. I'm just saying.
We love to hear it.
Things got spicy. And here's what I will also say. I think the people are going to be more on my side than his.
Nothing wrong with a healthy debate, you know?
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm looking forward.
Look, I don't want to debate with Logan too much and be on the opposite side of things because he's smarter than me when it comes about football.
Uh-huh.
So, like, when I agree with him, I think, like, oh, good. I'm smart. I knew things. There's not often that I'm like, you know what? I think Logan's wrong here. But I do, and I don't even think that he's necessarily, like, super wrong on this. I just think that the framing here is a little too protective of our feelings. And I think we should be more bold. And I was ready to be bold, and so I was bold. And that's coming up at the top of the hour. So that hullabaloo that I just said, you want to know what it was about? Stay tuned. Take Command with Logan at the top of the hour. By the by, big week on Take Command. Mark Schlereth going to join us for the pod on Wednesday. So pretty pumped for that. Stink and Adam Amin on the call this weekend for Fox. That's officially official and out and into the world. I've known it for 3 months, but I don't know why Fox never published it, but it was in the Commanders game release today, so I can finally say it on the radio. Adam is going to join this show on Friday, so pretty pumped for that. You'll hear the Schlereth interview if you can't catch the pod either tomorrow or Thursday here on the radio. Because, Anthony, guess what? Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Hump day.
Who would have thought?
Yes,
Who would have thought? Because it feels like a Monday, but guess what? It's Tuesday.
This week is flying, Craig.
Look at it. It just started, and we're already almost to Wednesday. All right. What else happened this weekend? Still brought to you by...
Nobody.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Colorado thing real quick.
Yes, sir.
We'll get to the U.S. Open. We'll get to USA basketball going down in a second. But Colorado wins. They beat TCU. It's incredible from a football perspective. Deion's son throws for 500 yards. Travis Hunter is a beast. He plays both ways. He has a pick and 119 yards receiving. Like, kid's incredible. One of the best players in the country. Shedeur Sanders, maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Deion clearly knows how to coach. And, you know, I feel bad. Like, I'm very uncomfortable with 86 new players in a college football program because I just think that at the end of the day, like, not every kid is there to play football. Some kids are there to do stuff and play football. And I don't think that, like, those bottom of the roster guys, like, there's more to college football than just winning games. And that, to me, is a little off-putting. But from a pure football standpoint, like, Deion's, what he's doing is remarkable. What happened after the game is remarkably stupid. And people, like, might think I'm about to trash Deion here. But what I'd actually like to trash is the collective press at large. The collective media, of which I am a part. But, Anthony, I cannot believe how out of control the Ed Werder thing got. For one reason. So if you missed it, after the game, Deion calls out Ed Werder, ESPN, longtime reporter, and he's like, do you believe now, you know, I saw what you wrote. Do you believe? Ed is like, believe in what? And then there's this whole discourse about whether or not it's a reporter's job to root or believe. And there's people grandstanding saying, oh, it's okay, you know, for reporters to have opinions. Like, it's fine. You still can be objective. And other people that say it's not the media's job to be fans of the team. And people are grandstanding. What nobody bothered to look up is Ed Werder didn't write a bleeping thing about Colorado. The whole story is bupkis. I didn't have the voice to do that, but I did it anyway. The whole thing is so stupid because Ed Werder hasn't done written word in 25 years. Ed Werder's been a TV reporter the whole time, primarily covering the NFL. Ed Werder covered Deion Sanders as a player when he was in Dallas. Deion was, not having fun with Ed, but kind of recognized a familiar face as the game was down at TCU in the Dallas area, and ESPN had sent Ed to cover the game because he knew Deion. And Deion was like, oh, you believe now? And maybe they'd had some private back and forth where Ed was like, I don't know. But he sure as bleep didn't write it anywhere because Ed Werder doesn't write. And not one stupid aggregator who loved to blow this story up and get all the clicks for their website by posting the video that they didn't even take bothered to double check if the story had any basis in reality or in Deion's outsized ability to get attention for himself in his program, which is a compliment, not a diss. How dumb are we? What are we doing? An entire internet argument based on nothing. How perfect. That's the end of my rant, Anthony, on the Colorado thing.
To be honest, I was a little confused what Deion was even getting at. I myself didn't,
The answer was nothing.
I mean, I understand that now, but it is a little crazy, I guess, that Deion sounded off on him. Maybe he was mistaken. I'm not sure. I actually don't want to put words in nobody's mouth.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
But I think he saw a familiar face. I saw my old friend Matt Mosley, who I used to work with down in Dallas and who did a podcast and has known Ed for 35 years. And they used to do a podcast together. They might still do a podcast together, but they're boys. And Mosley was like, yeah, Deion saw a familiar face and like Ed represented perhaps someone and some people who don't believe and whatever. But like when he's like, oh, you don't believe, do you believe now? And he's pointing at him and it's the whole thing. It's grandstanding by Deion. Like and if they want to do that, that's fine. And it's a little chuckle and, wink, wink. Maybe Ed's, I want to say they're in on it together. It's not like they're conspiring here, but like Ed's not fazed by that. And I don't think Deion knew what he was doing. But to all like the internet keyboard warriors that had to either like basically get their takeoff on the role of the media, if you feel so strongly about the role of the media, how about you do a basic fact check on actually what the hell's going on in the story that's completely made up right in front of you? I lied. That was the end of my rant on the Colorado thing.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to add on.
I think I said enough.
I think so. I think you did it perfectly, actually.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, pal. All right. What else happened this weekend? USA basketball lost. Luckily for them, I spent too much time yelling about Colorado. Also, luckily for them, they were in group play still. They made it out of group play. They'll have a slightly harder path to the finals, but I think ultimately they'll be fine in FIBA. I will say it just reminds us of kind of what this roster is for the U.S. and, like, the youth on it. I thought it was pretty hysterical on the bad takes category. I don't know why this became a bad take segment, but, like, Kendrick Perkins has some of the worst takes in the NBA going right now. Bro, they are awful. He tweeted out, like, 2 weeks ago after Anthony Edwards had 30-something in one of these games. He's like, I think we have a face of the NBA now. Carry the hell on. Because Kendrick has to sign off every tweet with carry the hell on. I was like, I don't know. Maybe every international player that's better than him. And after he dropped 30 in a FIBA game, maybe it's not the time to anoint him the new face of the NBA when he's never won a playoff series. But, like, Anthony Edwards is great. He's probably going to be a top 5 player in the league soon. He's might even be the best young American player that's out there. But, like, I think it's just a reminder that, like, the best players in the world are now actually truly dispersed throughout the world. And if the U.S. is not going to send their best with Steph and LeBron and, whoever else you consider the best that's been around long enough that they no longer really want to spend their summers playing FIBA, your Dame Lillards, et cetera, then the U.S. is going to be in battles like this, and they're going to lose to a team like Lithuania with a couple of NBA players and a lot of talent that's elsewhere in the world that is more familiar with that style. And then last but not least, and what else happened this weekend, congrats again. I mentioned it in trending, so I won't go too far off on it. Congrats again to Coco Gauff. Incredible. She's on fire right now and becomes the first American teen to make the semifinals at the U.S. Open with her win today since Serena Williams. I believe that was 2006, although there was another Serena adjacent stat, and it might be 2001. I think actually it's 2001 on that one. And there was another thing that she's done for the first time since 2006. Maybe it was she also made it in doubles with her partner Jessica Pegula. Might have been the first time someone made the semis in both. Although it feels like Venus and Serena probably did that sooner. So I don't know what the other stat is. And that's what else happened this weekend. When we get back, take command time here on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at the top of the next hour, the show will be over. It'll be BetMGM tonight. Although, Anthony, I guess I do got to start checking the schedule a little bit more because we got Talking Terps on some nights coming up soon.
Yes, sir. Thursdays, baby.
Thursday, Talking Terps. Coach Locke, so you will get that coming up Thursday nights following the show. And then following that, you got Thursday Night Football. Again, if you missed the news earlier, fantastic news out of Kansas City. Travis Kelce left practice today after a hyperextended knee. That's the bad news. The good news is that Adam Schefter reporting the Chiefs believe his ACL is fine, so he should not be out. And when you hyperextend a knee, that is obviously one of the big injuries that you are concerned about. Other things could be like a bone bruise, which would, those hurt like a mother. Anthony, have you ever had a bone bruise?
I've had a bone bruise and I've hyperextended my knee 2 times.
They suck.
Yeah.
They are so terrible. But the good news, again, is that he being Travis Kelce, does not have a torn ACL from what they can tell. So we'll hopefully see him Thursday night. But even if you don't, it's a couple weeks kind of thing, not anything longer. But that's that. Thursday Night Football all season long here on the Team 980. And then, of course, our pregame Burgundy and Gold game day all day on Sunday. Logan and I get going at 10 to 1 is the pregame show, the Take Command pregame show, which brings us to Take Command on the day. Logan and I recorded our kind of season preview podcast. We answered a couple of mailbag questions. And the first one was about expectations for the season. And I thought it was framed interestingly. Logan and I, a little bit of disagreement on what the answer actually is. So here you go. Little Take Command for you on a Tuesday here on the Hoffman Show.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. That is Logan Paulsen. I am Craig Hoffman. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. And Logan, it's time to get ready for a football game. Time to get ready for a season. It's here. It's week 1.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And like in classic NFL fashion, the week 1's going to be interesting, even though it's against like a team that's just okay. So, always fun storylines in the NFL, and it's good to be talking about football finally. So.
For sure. So we will preview the game itself later in the week. Right now, though, kind of a season preview, answering some of the biggest questions, and then we'll end with some of the season total over-unders, Sam Howell touchdowns, Terry McLaurin receptions, all that kind of stuff at the end of the podcast. Let's start, though, with this one from Josh Stack on Twitter. He said, no love from the national pundits for the team this year. Is it Ashburn syndrome to think the team will be a playoff caliber competitive team?
I mean, kind of. I mean, like when you take a step back, right, and just like look at it from a national pundit's perspective, which we talked about. Like, you're starting a 5th round quarterback, and it's not that he's untalented. It's not that he hasn't been good, but like the history and the track record of even rookie 1st round quarterbacks playing really high level football is not great. So you kind of have to count that in. So let's say Sam throws for 25 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. Like, that's a pretty good year, but it's like kind of middle of the road.
One of the best years a quarterback here has had in a decade.
Right. But it's like, is that enough to win you a whole bunch of games? I don't know. So there's that. I think the O-line kind of mixing up is interesting, in terms of like you're having, 4 new starters, and like guys have been in the organization. Obviously Kaz's been here, Sadiq's been here, but 4 new starters in terms of position and what they're doing. That's like usually not a great sign. Obviously, a new play caller is a big thing. Like it takes time to learn new offenses. It takes time to get stuff installed. So I'd say like that's something that I'm really kind of keeping an eye on. It's just like if you're someone outside looking in, you're not watching practice every day. Like those things are tough. They're really, really tough. And then when you look at the variance in defensive production year to year, which is so closely tied to strength of schedule. This strength of schedule is much harder than it was last year. So, nationally, you're probably expecting some type of defensive regression, even though that group looks really, really good. So it's like all of those things kind of culminate in this, they might be a talented team. They might be good. They might have upside, but 2023 doesn't look like it's going to be a very, very productive year for them. Now, like I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to outperform that because of what EB's done this offseason, and what EB can do, or what I've seen EB do just from like, what that Kansas City offense has the potential to bring, what a West Coast offense in general does for a young quarterback, how Sam has performed. I think they'll exceed expectations. The question is like, what does that look like? Is that 10 wins? Is that, 9? Because like right now, I think they have us winning 6 games. Is that correct?
6.5. Yeah.
6.5. Yeah. So, and I think it's tough. Like the schedule's tough this year. So it's not like, I think it's a little bit of aspirin. I think it's a little bit of, the kind of national perspective on the team. But I do think, I think some of that stuff is warranted. And I'm not talking bad about the organization. I love what they've done. I think they're in a good spot. But there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. And we have not played an actual football game yet. So like they'll remain unanswered probably till like week 5 or 6. So.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is true, but I don't think it's Ashburn syndrome to think this team could be playoff competitive when they were last season and their offense stunk. Like, that's the thing that I think gets missed by the national pundits is people think this was like a 4-win team last year or something. It wasn't. They were an 8-1 football team, and Carson Wentz, who was abysmal, started 6 games, and Taylor wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire, although he figured out enough to win. And then, obviously, Carson comes back in that Cleveland game, and kaputs goes the season. But the offense in general was incredibly unproductive, even when they found ways to win games. And the defense didn't even start that well, and they won 8 games. And so I know the strength of schedule is harder. I would be stunned if the offense isn't better, if not, like, I think the upside is significantly better, but I think at minimum they are better. And I think the defense is going to be better this year if this John Allen plantar fasciitis doesn't linger, which is a gigantic question mark. I mean, the linebacker is also a huge question mark, but they had that question last year. I think the secondary is going to be better this year. Like what it was post William Jackson III was a totally different group back there. And I think that they'll be closer to that, even if you have a rookie starting in Emmanuel Forbes. But I just, to say that if the threshold is playoff caliber competitive, to me, yeah, that's the minimum expectation. If they're not that, then there's going to be massive changes, and there should be massive changes because of the talent level on this team. And that's not me wishing for that to happen by any stretch of the imagination. Clearly, I would rather cover a winner, and I don't like seeing people lose their jobs, yada, yada, yada. But realistically, with the talent that they have, and what they've been building over the last couple of years, and with what I think Bieniemy is capable of, I think they should be playoff caliber competitive. It's going to be hard, but they should. Like that's not an outrageous thought to have.
Yeah, but I think it's like when you say should, like a reason you're saying should is because of all the question marks that we just discussed, right? And I think also you look around the division and you say like Philadelphia, like probably the best team in the division. I think Dallas got a lot better with the addition of like Dalvin Cooks and Stephon Gilmore in the back end. And again, that doesn't make them a perfect.
Brandon Cooks you're talking about on the wide
receiver.
What I say?
Yeah, what I say? Brandon Cooks, excuse me.
Yeah, Dalvin's playing running back for the Jets.
Yeah, so, I'd say like they've gotten better, and again, like, I'm not saying this is a bad team, but, you start a rookie corner, like they're going to go through their lumps, right? You mentioned the linebackers, like we've been kind of up and down on them. The health of the defensive line, we haven't even talked about Chase. Like it's NFL football, right? I was talking with the guys, Santana and Fred on another podcast about this, and like there's no like easy layup wins, and this team is definitely one that's not built for like easy layup wins the way like Kansas City is, right? Where you're just like better than everybody. You have the best player in football on your team. You've got a great scheme. You've got a team that's built to and knows how to win. Like we're not quite there yet. I am optimistic. Like I do think that having EB here is very, very valuable, but I do think like, I think there's a little bit of rose-colored glasses with this, a little bit, because like you're assuming that Sam Howell plays good football, and I think that is.
I mean, kind of, but I'm not even saying that. Like, I'm assuming that he's playing better football than Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke did last year.
What was the touchdown interception ratio for those 3 guys last year, or two guys together? That would be my question. And because I remember I looked this up earlier this offseason, like that's a pretty good ratio. It wasn't like amazing, but it was like pretty good. And does Sam outperform that? And it would be a crazy kind of I think it would be precedent setting for a young player to throw like that. So
Wentz was 11-9.
Okay.
And Taylor Heineke was 12-6.
12-6. All right, so that's
23-15.
15. So does he do that? That's a good year for a young player. You
Yeah.
know? Like, and then,
but it's also like
against
that's
tougher
one
competition.
part of the equation, though. Like, obviously, you know, how do you move the ball? You know, drives can get finished in other ways.
Sure.
But it just, man, I don't know, man. I
but
the process last year was so bad.
I guess what I'm saying is it feels that way because we watch it every day. You know, if we didn't watch it every day and we were just national media, we'd be like, no way that's going to work. You got a guy calling plays for the first time in his whole career. You got a guy who's installing his own offense for the first time. Historically, those things take time to develop. Sam Howell, like everyone agrees he's talented now. You know, everyone saw that Monday night game. Everyone's super jazzed, fired up, whatever it is. But like, he's a young football player. Young quarterbacks have an acclimation period. You're starting 4 new people on the offensive line. Like, it's not just like a walk-in playoff ready team here. There are questions that need to be answered. Now, I think Juan Castillo and Travell Wharton have done a great job with the O-line. I think that group's going to exceed expectation. But do I think that they're going to exceed expectation because I watch them every single day? Probably. Do I think Sam's going to exceed expectation because I watch him every day and I go to Ashburn all the time? Probably. Am I stoked on EB because I see him every day? Probably. So that's what I'm saying. I think there is a little bit of shine because we're out there all the time, Craig. And like I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying like that's why I think there's this tremendous optimism because we have a little bit more information. But that information comes not knowing what Philly's practices look like or what Dallas's practices look like. So I think that's kind of where I'm at is like we have all this information around our team, but like we don't have information about the other teams in the division even to kind of say, right. Oh, like this is like what it would look like, I guess.
So here's my question though, is like we have the information and while we don't have it about the other teams, what we have on this team is good. It's not like, you know, like if this team is executing at a high level in practice and this team is, you know, doing the right things and this team is sharp, like at what point does it not that it doesn't matter what the other teams are doing, but like if this team executes well and the talent here is better than people outside who don't know think it is, like, doesn't that give us a knowledge advantage? And I do think sometimes you get way caught up in your own stuff. And, you know, there's obviously an objectivity that is very helpful. And the more you know about the more things, ideally you can come to better conclusions. Yeah. But it would be different to me if we saw this team every day and we're like, I don't know, they're pretty mixed bag. Like they're actually not that sharp. They're not on top of the details, but they're talented. So let's see how it goes when they go up against other teams. What we've seen is a team that is on the screws on a lot of the stuff that we have missed or been missing here in the past. And so if other outside pundits don't have that information, to me, that's where they're underselling this team. And we actually have an advantage there. It doesn't mean it's going to, you know, not be hard to face Philadelphia or Dallas or, you know, Buffalo in week 3 or whoever you want to talk about. But like the stuff that has been problematic here in the past, where we've seen it even in preseason and in training camp, has not been as bad this year, and in some areas has been pretty damn good. And that to me is the biggest difference.
And I would say to you, I think this probably comes from having been on different teams with different organizations, different off seasons, that type of stuff, is you always think you're doing the right stuff. You always think you're ahead of the curve. Like even when it's bad, you always think you're progressing. There's like this confidence about it. And I think because of our proximity, we're kind of infected by that optimism, you know, because like to really know like, oh, it's sharp here. Right. And I know it's sharp because I've seen multiple training camps, but maybe Kansas City's
That's
even
what I'm
sharper.
Saying. Like, it's
but
not
let me finish my thought. So maybe Kansas City's even sharper or Philly's even sharper. And like the standard of what excellence looks like or what elite offenses or what elite groups look like or what elite skill position groups look like looks and feels different. Like we're like, oh man, John's balling in camp. But everybody's got a guy who's balling in camp, one of their one receivers. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like,
Terrell Pryor had one of the greatest training camps I've ever seen in my life.
And so that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying is that it's just, I'm not saying that our evaluation is incorrect. Our evaluation is incomplete, is what I would say. And that incomplete evaluation, and it's not our fault. We can't go to Philly's training camp. We can't go to Dallas's training camp. We don't know what that looks like. So we just have this information. And so there's nothing to say like, it's easy to say, oh yeah, the O-line's looking way sharp. They're improving. They're exceeding expectations. And then we go to Philly and we're like, oh, well, like that O-line's amazing. And that quarterback's amazing. And that skill group's amazing. And I'm not saying that's one of the better teams in football. That's one of the better rosters in football. So you probably would say that. But because of our proximity, our evaluation is incomplete. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, we've got good skill position players. Yes, but so does everybody else in the division. Maybe not the Giants. But we're like, oh, optimistic about the O-line because we all thought they were going to be terrible. And they've exceeded that slightly. But are they a good offensive line would be my question. And you just go around, like look at Philly's O-line compared to our O-line, or look at the Giants O-line or defensive line, excuse me. And it's like, what is the deviation? What is the separation between those groups? It's really hard to tell because we haven't watched those other practices would be my thought. So I'm not saying that we're wrong or that our evaluation's poor of the roster. I'm just saying we don't have other information. And because of that lack of other information, you're going to bias to what you know. I got a funny story. So when I used to take Spanish in high school, I was terrible at Spanish. Like, I'm a bad speller. I'm not good with other languages, right? And I would get the Scantron and I'd look down and I'd be like, oh, I know that word, that Spanish word. That's got to be the answer. And you bias to things that you're familiar with, right? And so I think we just naturally bias towards the Commanders in this case. Again, so there is a little bit of rose color. I do think that doesn't dissuade me from thinking that they can be good. But I also think there's a lot of really, really good football teams around the NFL, and we just don't know, especially with the strength of schedule change, like how good this team can be. And it's just an unknown thing at this point, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. I would just say this. This is my last ditch, pushback on here. The Baltimore practice went really well. And that is the one. I mean, obviously, they also went 3-0 in the preseason. That means nothing because the majority of the snaps in those games are played by guys that are no longer wearing the uniforms of the teams that were on the field those days. They've all been cut. You get the point. However, the Baltimore practice, like you see, by the way, the difference in an elite quarterback and what Sam Howell is. Like, Howell did well in those practices, but Lamar was, you go, whoa, like that dude that's different. Like, you can see it, but you watch Jahan Cook, the Ravens guys. Now, by day 2, they didn't have any of their guys left, but like day 1, going against the Marlon Humphreys, whatever, like he and Terry, like they did well. Curtis, on down the line, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are really, really good. You see the offensive line hold up better than we thought they would. They actually look better in those practices than they did against the Commanders D-line, which makes you think that, maybe this Commanders D-line is actually as good as advertised, and this offensive line maybe isn't struggling as much as we thought. They're just facing one of the best D-lines in football. So I think the Baltimore practice tells us something. And also, I don't know, I just go to the threshold of the question here is really what I'm saying. I'm not trying to convince anybody this is a 10, 11, 12 win team. I think if they stay abundantly healthy, which they're already not, and catch a couple of breaks, like, could they? Sure.
I agree.
Predict that? Absolutely not. But playoff caliber competitive, yeah, I think they should be. I don't think they're a 6-win team. I know Vegas says they're 6 or 7 win team, and Vegas is not wrong very often, but I tend to think that they're going to be better than that.
I think maybe that's where I'm getting caught up. Maybe the roster's playoff talented, but there are some limitations to the roster in terms of youth at the quarterback position, inexperience with the play caller, offensive line health that makes you say, hey, because like the other thing you look at is you look at the schedule and you say, which quarterbacks are they playing this year? And they're playing a bunch of really good quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, I know you have to look at strength of schedule, but also
that's a huge thing.
Schedule. It is, but like it's also, we don't actually know what the strength of the schedule is. We know what it looks like right now, but if
I'm not even talking about like I'm just saying quarterbacks.
Like, right, but like if by Christmas Eve Zach Wilson's playing instead of Aaron Rodgers, that's a very, very different schedule.
It's a very different schedule, 100%. But I'm just saying, like, as of this second, as of right now,
it's hard.
There's a lot of good quarterbacks on, and like again, I I agree. Like there's a lot of variation. There's a lot of flexibility with other positions, but if you're a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, like usually those guys win football games. And we're playing a couple of those guys this year. So that's just my thought. I think that's the other thing that needs to be considered in this equation. But I agree with you. I think it's a talented team. I think they're competitive. I love what EB's doing. I love the maturation at all spots. But I'm also ready to acknowledge that it's an incomplete evaluation. It's a proximity bias type thing. So I just think that it's important for fans to kind of keep that in mind in terms of managing expectations. I expect this to be a team that's in a lot of games that last year they wouldn't have been in just because the coaching is going to be better. But does that manifest into a playoff push? I don't know.
It's a team that I expect to be hovering around 500 the entire year.
I think that's probably fair. And then maybe if you get lucky, to your point, if you get a couple breaks, things fall your way. Not a bad spot. Maybe you're
pull an upset or two. Get lucky on the injury front, either for you or against somebody else. But I don't think this is a team that we're going to look up and be like, God, they're way out of the playoff picture. They're 4 games under 500. That's just not a place I anticipate this team being at any point this season. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's why they play the games. All right, that from Take Command. You want the full podcast, the rest of our mailbag, as well as our season over-unders. Make sure you go to wherever it is that you subscribe to your podcast. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. On YouTube, full episodes are online at 1067 The Fans page. Post some clips up. I'm literally about to do that right now on my page at Craig Hoffman. When we get back, final 2 spots up for grabs in the Hoffman Show Fantasy Football League. Seriously, you can get in our Fantasy Football League. 301-230-0980. That is the phone number, 301-230-0980. You are calling in with the reason why you should be in the league. Should be perhaps humorous. It can't just be, I've been playing fantasy football for a long time. I've been listening for a long time. That's not good enough. We got 2 spots left. Why should you be in the league? 301-230-0980. Hoffman Show on the Team 980. On YouTube as well, at the Team 980. And always live on the free Odyssey app.
It is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the.
To warn you, bro, it is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get the one getting thrown out, that is what it is right now. It's baby. What are you going to do?
More of a story, and this is the waiting to tell you. That was part reaction to the hotel the next morning to go. It's not. As we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice. It's the groups stay out and on their bachelorette, the higher divorce rate. So, and also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
They say on the internet stuff. Let us do whatever. Build their own. Don't. Caution. Bad idea. What do we do?
We read the.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Again, if you want Take Command 3 times a week starting this week, well, really next week, kind of starts over the weekend. Do you not want to miss it during football season? That's all I'm going to say. It's the must-listen to thing of the week. I think this radio show is pretty freaking good, and you should listen to both because there's plenty of time to do that. But 1A and 1B, here, Take Command. And then 1C is the Kevin Sheehan Show. You get it. You get it. We got you covered here from Odyssey and the Team 980. All right. Why do you belong in our fantasy football league? That is the question. 301-230-0980. The Ace Law listener line. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law. 301-230-0980. To recap, we have Anthony. Do you have the names all in front of you? I know we got Saeed.
Yep.
We got Ryan, right?
No,
Josh.
Yep.
Josh was in. Who else we got? Sean.
Yep. One more.
I don't remember. Who else?
His name is similar to yours.
Oh, Greg. That's right, Greg.
Yes.
Greg, the teacher.
Yep.
I was doing that literally off the top of my brain.
Yep.
So, yeah, Greg the teacher is in. So we also have Wes Hall from NBC Sports Washington. Soon you be actually, it's September now. Are they officially Monumental Sports now?
It's a great question that I don't have the answer for.
Okay, we'll have to ask Wes. Michael Phillips, who's going to join the show later this week as well. But Michael is in the league, so pretty pumped about that. And then me and you. So that leaves in a 10-team league, 2 spots left. We got Cobra Commander, pretty compelling. Let's see, pretty compelling case on Twitter. I'm just double checking real quick to see if anybody else has chimed in. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So we got a guy, Cobra Commander. He's the only one that I really got on Twitter as kind of a provisional poll, if you will. So let's see what we got on the phones. 301-230-0980. Tim, why do you belong in the league?
Man, I'm tired of getting the social media and the bragging rights in my group. I need some radio play bragging rights about winning the league.
Okay, so how does that separate you from anyone else who wants to win the league?
How does that separate me?
Yeah, like what's it about your group that would make it that much better than if the next person, if John calls in and is like, hey, I also want bragging rights, then you guys have the same thing. What's so special about you and your crew that you deserve to be in the league here?
Oh man, we've been doing this for a long time. Like we've been doing it for the money. Like I'm be able to talk about it because we gonna talk about it during the week, and just to hear me like, dang, he had a real sleeper pick. Because I got a couple sleepers that nobody know about, and y'all remember me.
Yeah, Tim. Sorry, it's not really the bit we're doing here. It's not. Everyone tries the same thing the first time. Clearly, this is proof, if there ever has been, that people do not listen to the entire show, which is something we know from like a statistic data standpoint. That is not something, a couple of y'all have been listening since 4 o'clock, and we appreciate and salute you that you catch it. Or perhaps you're listening to this hilarity later, and you've heard this speech now a couple of times because you listen back on the podcast. And you listen. That's how I used to listen to my favorite radio shows back before I was doing this every day. Like in college, I listened to the podcast of, I'll even shout it out. It was SVP and Rosillo. Every day, I was listening on the podcast in between classes whenever I could. So maybe some of y'all are hearing this back on the podcast later, and you're like, damn, these fools really did not pay attention. Being good at fantasy, being a long-time listener, even a loyal listener, that does not mean we do not appreciate you. It just does not make you, thankfully for us, we have more than one loyal listener. That is a good, I think, Anthony, this is an ego boost for us because it does speak well to the fact that we have many loyal listeners to the show. But unfortunately for you calling in, that does not separate you. We need what makes you special to be in the league. 301-230-0980. We got phone lines open. Humor is definitely, like, if you honestly, Anthony, someone could call in with a good joke, a terrible story, but a good joke, and they might wind up in the league at this point. The bar, we got open phone lines. The bar ain't that high.
Uh-huh. It's not. A lot of, space for opportunity.
That's what we see. That's what we see in you.
Oh, there they go.
Here they go.
Here they come.
Here they come. People are going to come in, and you know what's going to happen? People are going to come in with the worst jokes we've ever heard in our entire lives. But let's see what we got. 301-230-0980. I'll also continue to peruse the YouTube comments on the live stream. Let's see. We got anybody else? No. I will say this. Mike Steffen, who messaged us earlier, if you're still watching, I need you to get back in the chat because right now, you got a shot, bro. We got 2 spots left. 2 spots left. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff, why do you belong in the league?
Man, I've been playing fantasy football for a long time, and I don't know whether it's dumb luck or what, but I'm either coming in dead last or I'm coming in just short of the first spot. I would love the chance to try to play with people that actually know the sport.
Yeah, but Jeff, the thing is, that's why everyone wants to be in the league. Like, I get it. I hope that you have. How many leagues are you in right now?
Right now, 4.
Okay, I am hoping that you win not just one, but at least 2 of those leagues. Unfortunately, it's not going to be our league. Because I play fantasy football. Yeah, that's the prerequisite. We got that. You need something better. Why do you belong in the league? Carl, why do you belong in the league?
Well, because I am the greatest fantasy football player
No,
of
you're
all.
not. Carl, you're just not. That's not a thing. Oh, my God. Derek, why do you belong in the league? Derek.
Yeah.
Why do you belong in the league?
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, God. We can't.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing this. We got to have a good, clean call. We got to have a good reason. We need, honestly, Commander Cobra out there listening. Cobra Commander at Rocky Pinnock. Rocky, you're in. I got one spot left. Brandon, why do you belong in the league?
Yo, for number one, I'm the most entertaining person that listens to your show. Number two, y'all got to get everything centered around the DMV. Y'all need somebody from down here in the dirty south of Florida to take over and go ahead and show y'all what's going on, man. Y'all too regionalized.
I mean, you realize this is a Washington, D.C. radio station.
Yeah, and I'm a Washington, D.C. fan stuck down here around all these Buccaneer fans claiming Tampa Bay and all this crap with Baker Mayfield playing quarterback. I need to be able to relate to some of my people.
Well, that's why you got the free Odyssey app, Brandon, but you're not going to be in the league. Sorry. I'm stuck in Florida. You made life decisions, bro. That's tough sledding. Let's see. 301-230-0980. We got like 90 seconds left. There is still time. At this point, the bar is so... Oh, Anthony, we just had the last person on the whole drop.
Nah, he had called already. Carl, he said he wanted to do some type of impression, and he got cut off too short.
Well, he should have gotten to the point.
Yeah, he was. I told him he was moving too slow.
And then he hung up?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We got more people trying to get back in. 301-230-0980, the A-Slaw listener line. Hey, they can't get you in the league, but if you get in a wreck, A-Slaw will help you get a check. 8888 A-Slaw. All right, let's go. Derek, why do you belong in the league?
Because I tried out for the Redskins back in 1978 under George Allen.
Now we're talking. I want the story, Derek. Give us the story, and as long as it's good, you're in the league.
I was 20 years old, and I tried out. Herb Mulkey had tried out the year before, and George Allen picked him up. I tried out. I was 5'9", probably weighed 170 pounds, soaking wet. And Charlie Taylor and Roy Jefferson were the receivers. I caught everything they threw to me, but I was too little.
You hate to see it. The good thing is, Derek, you're big enough to be in the league. Derek gets our last spot. Derek, I'm going to put you on hold. Anthony's going to get your email. That's what we're talking about. I had to hang up on a lot of people with really bad pitches. But we got a guy who tried out for the team in 1979 and was told he's too small. But kids, one day you might just wind up in a fantasy football league involved with a silly radio show. I think we're going to try to do the draft tomorrow. We might do it Thursday because now I got to record Take Command when we were hoping to do the draft tomorrow. So one of the next 2 days, we'll do it. Anthony and I will let you know how our teams went. We also are going to try to live stream the draft. So this is why you should subscribe to the Team 980, subscribe to my page on YouTube, at Craig Hoffman, at Team 980, because when we go live, you will get an alert that says, hey, the Hoffman Show Fantasy Football League draft is live. I think what we're going to try to do is get me, Anthony, Wes Hall, Michael Phillips on basically a Zoom call, the screen up. I'll take care of all the technology. And then you guys can watch us trash talk through a 10-round draft, and it'll be a good time. So we got our league. We got 10. I have almost no voice left, but the good news is we got I got until we're done, less than 15 minutes left in the show. I think, boys and girls, we're going to make it. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're also live on the free Odyssey app, and we're streaming on YouTube, and I'm exhausted. Fantasy app. Appreciate everyone sticking with us on the stream today. I know the audio's been all over the place in terms of actually matching up to the video. I think Anthony, the final verdict is I think we had a bit rate issue. And I think hopefully this last segment will have mostly gotten it figured out. So perhaps things are finally, by the end of the show, our words are matched up with our mouths, which would be cool.
See, that's the good thing about you, Craig.
I just keep on trying.
You're going to find a solution to all our problems. It's
Yeah.
always good to be solutions-oriented.
I agree with that. I wish I would have found the solution before the show, but just the way things work today, that wasn't something that really worked with the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you want to know what? We're just going to roll with it. Yep. And I appreciate everyone who stuck with it. The show, you still got to hear the show. Just you put it on your smart TV in the background, and it sounded like normal. So there's that. All right, we got a lot of real things today. So let's get these on opened up. And you want me to hit it? I got the board back, so I can. Or do you want to hit it? Tell me.
It's up to you, man. Actually, I want you to use your fresh new board.
Okay. I hope the engineers got this board hooked up to the stream, by the way. If not, the stream's going to go silent. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere after I just bragged that hopefully the audio is fixed, which it probably definitely isn't.
Real things.
Hey,
We're not going to suck this year.
Real people.
5 and 11. Not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All righty. Let's start off. We've been talking about Coco Gauff and her successes at the U.S. Open. How about Coco bagging a little bit on Frances Tiafoe? Tiafoe always rocking something cool, something sleeveless. Has been doing a lot of practicing in different jerseys. Had a Kuzma jersey on, repping the DMV earlier this year. But Coco not as keen on what Frances Tiafoe is wearing.
Yeah, because Francis told me at French Open that he had something crazy planned for U.S. Open. And I was like, you're wearing confetti. I said Carlos looked better. He's going to hate this. Love you, Francis.
That's got to hurt. That's got to hurt, Ant.
They both were rocking the sleeveless. And Coco said, Alcaraz looked better, man.
He did, I guess.
I don't blame Francis for the confetti. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it works for him.
I think it does too.
I don't think it would work for me.
Beyonce put it. She had on like a confetti kind of like.
By the way, how about Beyonce's show last night in L.A.? It was her birthday.
Crazy.
Diana Ross came out. Kendrick came out.
Man.
I hope that's the one they filmed for Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
HBO, whoever's got the deal for the concert special.
Uh-huh.
Give me that. Not Coco's best quote of the weekend though. I don't think we pulled this one, but on her match Friday night.
Oh, when she got asked.
Yeah.
About
so
the
there
game.
was Jimmy Butler was there, and he was sitting right behind Justin and Haley Bieber.
Yep.
And Coco looked up at the big screen at one point and saw them all, and she just goes, "Man, I can't lose in front of Justin Bieber."
That's actually hilarious. No, we didn't pull that one. Oh.
Maybe we'll do that one tomorrow.
Dang.
Alas. Also from the U.S. Open, so a battle of Americans, Tommy Paul and Bobby Shelton. Shelton, just a fire breather of a server. 149 miles an hour. Fastest in the U.S. Open since Andy Roddick hit 152 back in the early 2000s. By the way, if you are a tennis fan or you're in, like good journalism, phenomenal piece on Andy Roddick and the 20-year anniversary of his 2003 win in the U.S. Open in GQ. Really, really, really good piece. But anyway, Tommy Paul had to try to break Shelton's serving rhythm because good luck returning 149. Here's how he tried it.
I think when he hit the 149, you kind of gave him a little golf clap a little bit.
Yeah.
When your opponent's in that sort of rhythm, how difficult is it to sort of get them out of that rhythm?
Well, you want to get them out of the rhythm, but you don't want to be like disrespectful in any way. So I try and be like overly respectful, and maybe it'll get him out of his rhythm. Like on changeovers, like, dude, you're serving great today, that kind of thing. I hit him with a couple of those today, but he had no reaction to it. So wasn't really working.
That sucks. He's just in the zone blasting tennis balls 150 miles an hour
Destroying
at my
them.
face. The U.S. Open is so funny, too, because, like, obviously it's a hard court surface, and so the ball really takes off. And so you got dudes, like Daniil Medvedev was doing this last night. He's, like, at the stanchion, like, or the wall. Like, how far back can I stand before I am off the court? I would like to stand that far. But great tennis up in New York. Debut of the new debate television. Shannon Sharp now on First Take with Stephen A. Smith. Of course, a long time with Skip Bayless. And sometimes old habits die hard.
Is KC on upset alert if they don't get Jones back?
Yes, because if you think about it, the Lions were picked to win that division, Skip. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's all right. It's all right.
Stephen A.
Skip.
Did you see this morning what happened?
Stephen A. had a name tag that said, "My name is Stephen A," which is hilarious.
And then he had to also, double down with Molly as well, make sure he was saying her name correctly.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
We don't have the Manning cast thing is all over the internet. We do
It
not
is
have time for it.
hilarious.
By the way, you said 36, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't really have time for this Astros interview either. Damn. We got good stuff for tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. Also tomorrow, I am scheduled before the show for Take Command to catch up with Mark Schlereth. Might give you a little sneak peek of that. Let's see. We might have fantasy to talk about. What else do we got tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Never read the comments.
Yep.
We'll have an injury report finally.
Yep.
So that's good. Maybe we'll do a pick 6 tomorrow. That could be in the cards.
Hey,
and
now.
we're just steamrolling towards the Cardinals. We put out some Ask to some Arizona people, so I think you should just, tune in then. We'll see you on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980.